All right, guys. Today I'm joined by Adam Satkunananthan, founder of Ankit Designs, a top Canadian web agency helping nonprofits and small businesses crush it online. His journey kicked off one pivotal month where his freelance income matched his 9 to 5. And 14 years later, he's built this into an unstoppable people first agency that's trusted by over 150 clients. Adam, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Jumping straight into it, tell us about this pivotal month where you just flipped the switch and went all into the agency space.
This is many years ago. I started the company in 2010 and I was in university. I was doing my thing and just trying to help people. Prior to this, I was just trying to help people kind of design stuff, develop stuff, like things like that. And it turned out that people were willing to pay for this. So this was like helping friends, family, people that I knew, and just doing things that I could do to get some new skill that I didn't have. And so I got my first client, and that's when I actually started my business, was on his third payment. I was like, oh, this is something real. I started thinking that I was killing it, right? Making maybe $2,000-3,000 a year in total sales. And as a student, while I was working, I was like, wow, I'm really making it. Like I'm big time, right? And as I kept doing this, it was around like 2014, 2013. I was working two full-time jobs and still doing this business. Every moment I would get, I would try to work on the business. And anyway, I would tell everybody about it and try to get more clients and just try to, again, help people. That was always the mantra. If I can do something that you could find of value, I wasn't able to slickly position it or tell you all of the value props and all of the ROIs that you get from it. But if we could find some sort of place where I could fit in, I would fit in. And money was never the driving force on it. It was just, okay, let me see if I can do some cool stuff. And in 2014, I was working at Napa Auto Parts, which is like totally different from what I do now. But I was working as like counter sales selling parts. And at this time, I got diagnosed with a rare disease called keratoconus. So it's the instability of your cornea. And basically, one of my eyes had been too far gone and I needed surgery. They needed to put like a ring inside, to cut it open, put a ring inside without getting too graphic. And then they needed to do some light treatment on the right eye. All in all, the doctor said, you work in a very dusty, dirty environment. Like you don't get to go back to work for a month. So knowing this, going into the surgery, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of audio books. And because I won't be able to see, the idea was after the surgery, I won't be able to see pretty far. Like I won't be able to read and stuff like that, not for at least 2-3 weeks until I recover for a full month, and then I'll get my full vision back. And you lose vision at this time, degrade your vision, and you're going to need to do all these procedures later. That's a different story. But essentially, you don't get like better vision. It's not like LASIK or something like that. I realized, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of audiobooks because I'm bedridden. I won't be able to go outside. Like I had to wear these like sunglasses that like covered the top and bottom. And so I was like, okay. And so I did this for a month and I listened to a bunch of audiobooks like Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week, globalization. And like, I just sat there and couldn't sleep all the time. So just listen to these audiobooks on repeat. Right. And you can imagine for weeks on end doing this. Right. So it does change a little bit about how you think about business. And being that age, like you're very impressionable. You're able to adapt with what you're learning. So at the end of that first month, my doctor told me like, hey, you're still not ready. Like you can't go back. If you get a little bit of dust in your eyes, it's not going to be good for you. You need to take more time off. So you need to take another month off. They told me like, you cannot go back to work. So I said, okay, fine. But at this point I can see, and I feel like I'm pretty normal. I guess I just wasn't allowed to go back to a certain type of environment. So in that month, I said, okay, I'm going to utilize this time. Now I've been bedridden for an entire month. I work like crazy. So I'm like, why not just take this opportunity to go like mock full time with my business? And at this point in time, I just started telling everybody I was available. And so more and more people, and again, my doctor cleared this, but more and more people would come to me and say, hey, I had this small little den office in the front of my parents' house. And so I would use it as like my mock meeting room to have like clients that weren't my friends come in and feel like this is a real kind of business. And so at that time at my full-time job at Napa, I was probably making about 55,000 a year with overtime. Like that was me working Monday to Sunday. I worked every single day at that place and basically 8-hour shifts that whole time. That's not including my second job, but that was what I was making there. And in that first month of doing design, print, development of all sorts, I made $55,000 in that first month. I said, whoa, there's something going on here. I wasn't sure if I was good at this. I wasn't sure if this was like a fluke. I had no idea. But I said, screw it. And I said, okay, like even if I make half of that per month, even if I make a third of that per month, it's still more than what I'm doing. And talk to my brother. My brother was trying to go to a different career path at this point. He said, you know what? Let's just buckle down. Let's just do this thing. And I said, okay, cool. He's not a creative person anyway. And I wasn't a creative person. I self-taught everything. And we just figured out, okay, let's just try to do this. And he was 6 years older than me. So he would bring in different types of clientele that he had access to. And I would just build it. I would just make it, whatever it was. And then since then, it was a very long, rocky ride. But that month was a very inspirational month to really sustain me for a long time after that.
That's such a crazy journey. It's so cool, that story. I'm sure looking back, you're like, oh my God, almost incredible. That's so cool. Okay. So Adam, I'm curious for other agency founders that are listening that are looking to hit that first million or 2 million mark, right? And you were scaling your agency. What was the one growth lever that made the biggest difference for you?
Yeah. So I just talked about like that 1 month where we made so much in that particular month, like out of nowhere, made so much money. And the part of that story that isn't always told and isn't always heard is that it was, what did I offer to get that? Right. And so it was design. So it was business card design, letterhead design, portfolio design, website development, print. So if you need a business card printed, I got you. You need a banner, you need a flyer, 5,000, no problem. Got all of that. Now the turning point, so we did that for a while. But the problem was these pieces didn't fit together from a pricing strategy standpoint. If I was trying to, so digital, like most agency founders and owners will know, like you can scale your digital sales margins much faster and much quicker by showing more value in a limited way. So you can like do React, and all of a sudden, if you're doing static HTML and you started doing React or WordPress, like you've increased the value, but the resource taken to do that is not significantly more. But when it comes to print, you would have to do significant resources. So if you wanted to sell more and make more, the margins were very thin on print. So you would have to sell more quantity. You would have to sell higher grade paper that's harder to locate, that's harder to be consistent with. You might have to do not CMYK colors. You might have to do you have to do a bunch of different things that's way harder resource wise. And then pricing strategy wise as well. So when I first started, I was doing websites for $895 with a logo and a website. If we printed 5,000 flyers, gave to 3 people. This is what we thought was the greatest idea ever. Fast forward to today, we're charging $50,000 for a website. That's a starting price. And the scale on that, when you do that in comparison to prints, and it didn't happen overnight, it happened over many years. But when we went from $895, I was like, okay, this is not enough. This doesn't make sense. We're offering too much value here. Let's up it a little bit. Let's do $1,500. And then when we got to that $3,000 point of selling websites, starter websites, 5-page websites that are like brochure style, no real dynamic components, we started selling them originally at $3,000. And then you would sell a business card at $126. So the discrepancy didn't make sense. And the mentality of physical products versus digital products is people always felt like physical products deserved a discount, and digital products, they felt like they couldn't ask for one. And so you had this like mishmash of pricing strategy and conflicts within your own company, always trying, again, a mantra is always trying to help people. So it felt like, how can we do this well in all these different areas? And so the big lever, the big turning point for us was when we said, and everybody has spoken about this, but when we said, okay, we're only going to do one thing, and we're only going to do one thing really well. And that was the big key for us, is that we dropped print. Again, we separated into different companies, gave it over to different people to run and manage those clients and get new clients. But I didn't focus on those other businesses. My main focus was on website design and website development. And that was it. It's all that we did. And then 5 years later, I introduced website maintenance after planning it for 5 years. I whiteboarded this for a long time to make sure it wasn't price gouging. It wasn't something that was like insurance. It was more valuable to the customer. So it is peace of mind service, but it's useful, right? Like insurance is not useful until you get into an accident. Even then it's a headache. This is more of like preventative, but then if you do get into a situation that you're fully covered kind of thing, and it's not painful, right? So we planned that for 5 years and executed it over our loyal customers, the ones that like our champion customers. We rolled it out to them first at a discounted rate that they still have to this day. And then the other customers, as they came in, got the higher pricing that was in line with what it actually costs.
That's a really interesting story, and it's a common theme I think with a lot of agencies where it's like the second that you really niche down and you focus on one thing, revenue is skyrocketing.
Yeah. We're so scared. We're like, we're going to lose so much money. We're not going to make it. We're going to die tomorrow. Like that kind of thing.
And it's literally like the one lever that grew your business. Cool.
Absolutely.
So for other successful agencies, there's always that point where revenue and cash flow are solved, right? And then it's okay, we got that taken care of. Truly, what kind of business do we want to build? What kind of lifestyle do we want to build behind the business? So for you, when you think about that, like what's the vision now?
I think for a long time, we had always focused on people and like making sure that this whole digital thing was a very human thing. And I think that might be like maybe the attest to our success and also maybe like the reason why we're like a Fortune 500 company as well. Like it could be like two sides to that, but I see it as like a positive because we humanize our entire team. We make sure that everyone's local. We're all Ontario based. Like we're a remote company now ever since the new normal, but we're still Ontario based. We can still hang out if we want. We used to do team activities every month because we want to build that kind of internal culture. And then we always had this challenge of, hey, let's niche down into like logistics websites or let's niche down into like law firm websites. And that way we can like really like niche into there, tell people exactly what we do, why we do it, and get more customers. But that idea of get more customers for the sake of money was not something that like sat well with me and the people that came onto our team. Like it didn't like, it sounded good. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants to buy nice things and things like that, but it didn't feel right for some reason. And we just kept chasing cool stuff, meaningful stuff, impactful stuff, the human side of like why we do what we do. And we got to meet really crazy, really cool companies. And one of them was, we realized that like charities and not-for-profits is really where we really value the experience a lot. After we especially experienced it with Penny Appeal Canada, we helped, again, we didn't know what we were going to do result-wise. Their CEO at the time and their team at the time took a chance on us because they liked how we interacted with them. They liked the vibes. They liked how it felt. And we wanted to work with them because it sounded, they were a young company in Canada. They're established in US and UK, but they're a young charity in Canada. And they were doing $1 million in donations when they met us. And most of that was offline. It was not online. And so when they met us, I said, okay, cool. Like, here's some cool ideas. And the CEO, who's still a friend of mine to this day, he was like, look, I trust you. Let's just do it the way that you think we're going to do it. And I said, okay, cool. Let's try it. So we designed this new website. There was a bunch of hiccups in between as we're going through designs and iterations, which with any good product, you should have people bumping heads. There should be some of that. And so once we designed it out, we built it out. We took them from doing 1 million in that first year to doing $3.3 million in that first year of redoing their website. I didn't know that was going to happen. I knew there would be a bump, and we had been seeing results from other customers and like new followers or like new traffic to the site and people making compliments and people seeing our tag at the bottom and saying, oh, like that's you guys, like that's a wicked site, like those kinds of things, but never this kind of like tangible, like, holy smokes, there's real dollar values behind this. And then we looked at the site and we said, okay, we made this donation platform section on the website. And everyone kind of overlooked the donation overview page. We just all thought that everyone on their team, everyone on our team, we were like, people are going to go click on the cause. Then they're going to click, okay, you want to build a well, click donate, and then go to the build a well page. And like off you go to the checkout, right? Or sponsor an orphan. And then you click one orphan or two orphans and you hit donate and then you get a donate page. None of us thought, okay, people are just going to skip all of that and go straight to the donate page and then look at all the causes and then donate. And the second time around, which is the next year, we were talking, me and the CEO, we were talking, and he said, we got to make this better. There's more room here. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. And so I said, I think I have an idea, which is I think let's focus on the user, right? Let's focus on who they are let's focus on like them specifically, not like what they're getting or anything like that. Let's focus on them. And then let's say okay, who are they? And then what do they want? And then let's look at that. So we looked at the donor split, and we looked at returning donors versus new donors, and we looked at averages, and we said, okay, returning donors are donating more frequently, they're donating more often, they're all actually having a quicker workflow through it as well. They're the ones going to the donate page because they've already donated. They don't need the information about what's in building a well or what goes into sponsoring an orphan. They've already done it. They just want to hit the donate button. And we decided, I said, we're going to take a risk. And I said, we're going to do returning donors. We're going to prioritize the shit out of them. That's what we're going to do on the donation flow. We're going to separate it out of the site. We're going to make it only for returning donors. If you're a new donor, I want you to know you don't belong here right now. Go back somewhere else. And that way you go to the home page, you go to the cause page. But if you're a returning donor, you need to be rewarded. Here's 1, 2, 3 clicks, you're out. And we took those risks and we tried it. We went from doing 3.3 million to 8 million that following year.
What?
And again, it was focusing our internal company mantra of making sure we help people, making sure we put people first, making sure we value what the humanized side of digital is, and we humanize the heck out of it. And we deliver that in a product that is, of course, table stakes are, it has to look beautiful, right? It has to be seamless. It has to be functional, but it has to give you what you want quickly, because everyone goes on the web with the simple question, what's in it for me? Whether you're scrolling on TikTok, whether you're going on Google, you're literally going for what's in it for me. So we have to answer that question really quickly, but we have to know who we're answering that question to.
Tons of golden nuggets there. So Adam, there's a lot of successful agency founders that they hit a point where they realize I built a machine, but I'm still the engine. I still have to make all these things run. So for you, at what point did you start to bring in other people and you start to remove yourself from the process?
So I don't want to say that I'm fully removed from the process, because I'm not. I would love to sit here and tell you like, hey, I have exited and now I sit and I look at all the cool people doing cool things. It's very like a Jeff Bezos style conversation that I would love to do that. But I think I have such a deep rooted passion in what I do. And maybe again, there's always pros and cons to this, right? The work product turns out to be amazing, but then also I'm spending so much time here where maybe I could be doing other things. But I love it. I love doing what I do. I think there are certain elements that I've handed off. I don't design and I don't truly develop the websites at this level anymore. There are some projects that I'll like to do just because it's small, it's very contained. I can feel the old kind of like feelings of designing something and developing something, which is like super. That's why I started this. So it's really fun to do that and really just cool to see something come together. But I think stepping away comes from standard operating procedures, SOPs, massive SOPs. We use Get Guru for this. I think Get Guru is now a paid option. When we got it, it was free. And then we use like a huge tech stack. So we use like Asana for like project management and things like that. And then we use Slack for asynchronous communication, and then Dropbox. And like I can give you a laundry list of tools, but we use these tools in order to step away and take away those like meetings that we have, the micromanagement that you have over everything. We document things really well. So when we have that initial call with a customer, which is 15 minutes, we have a document for that. And then when we go into the scoping call for what the website, we call it the website needs analysis, but we go through 1 hour call on what it is that you want, what it is that you need, and then our recommendations, and we figure out all the scope. That's all documented as well. And I found that doing that part of it and handing it off is usually the best way to make sure that everyone has all of the questions answered that they need for their role, whether they're a designer, whether they're a developer. And anytime in any project that a designer or developer tells me, oh, hey, what about this thing? Did you like these dynamic fields? Are they going to connect to this third party or whatever, right? When they ask something like that, question now gets thought about and then added into that previous process, because we want to iterate on those processes. Those standard operating procedures aren't static, right? They are definitely something that we need to continuously work on, iterate on, make better. And Get Guru is good for that, because when we have those keys in there, it forces you to review those either at the very latest 1 year. You can set earlier frequencies, 3 months, 6 months, things like that. We always set it to 1 year. Let's be honest, we're a small team, but we do review it after that year and say, okay, is this still relevant? Yeah. Okay. We're going to do it like this. All of our care kit processes, which is our monthly support plan, all of that's documented. Anyone can pick it up and run and start using it.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. So, getting ready to wrap up here, Adam, if you had to give one piece of advice to other agency owners that want to have the level of success that you've been able to have here, what would it be?
One piece of advice. That's tough. What level they're at, I'll give at the level that I think most agency owners are at. Increase your price. So most agency owners, if your margin isn't high enough, increase your price. Reduce your service lines. So if you're doing like SEO, SEM, and you're also offering web design, and then you're also doing WordPress, React, other frameworks like static HTML or like Angular or whatever, right? Like Next.js, .NET. If you're doing all of those, like just cut it out. Just choose one, and the one that's most profitable, the one that you have the easiest time getting customers. And one thing that I would say help me is look at your customers. So take a list of all of your customers, take an inventory of all your customers, take a list of all of how much they've spent with you year over year or in that year or their lifetime, whatever it is, and rate them. A, B, base that off of, you can make this bigger and make it a big matrix of or a rubric or something. But basically you want to talk about time to deliver, profitability, ease of customer, meaning do I like them, right? And then average it out, and all of your A customers, figure out who they are, forget all the B's and C's, all the A customers, figure out who they are, what's in common with them, build your entire business around them, look at what products they bought, only do those products, and you'll kill it.
Gold from Adam. Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find more about what you're working on, or if they're looking to chat with you about any of the topics we covered here?
I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but mostly Instagram. I'm not too active. I'm not like a super social media influencer or anything like that. I wish I could be. But yeah, if you message me on there, I'll be happy to respond.
Cool. And we can definitely link that in the show notes. Adam, thanks again for coming on today. It was great having you.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for the time, Chris.